note, and this has been brought up previously in other meetings, but I found that the meeting minutes were very vague, didn't really capture the conversation that came around the table, questions that were asked, answers that were given, items that we agreed to kind of have actionable moving forward. So I mean, I have minutes from a meeting that I'm happy to pass along, but I'm wondering, since this has been brought up a number of times in the past, if we can come to a consensus on how the minutes are drawn up. I think it's really important, given the fact that we're under supervision and that the meetings are no longer live streamed, so the public can actually watch as it's happening or go back and look at a meeting for any kind of reference, nor can any of us. And in the interest of accountability and transparency for everyone, not just the community organizations, the public, but also for the LSS team and the board, I think it's really important that the minutes are much more detailed than they are now, and that they capture more of the conversations that happen around the table. So that's my comment on the minutes.
Yes,
I'll speak to that too, Madam Chair. Thanks for the comment. Appreciate the points raised. One of the things that we've had to do as staff over the last number of months, in particular in governance services and the support we have with the reductions to our staffing, we've needed to move to more action-oriented minutes. I do appreciate the comment around anything that's action-oriented. If we miss something in capturing that, by all means, for the kind of lengthy, detailed, almost comment-by-comment minutes that may or may not have been done in the past, are just not something we have the staffing resources to be able to do. They're extraordinarily lengthy in time. I appreciate the comment made. We'll make sure if there's any actions and the spirit of any sort of a decision or action orientation that will capture, but we're just not equipped as perhaps we once were, or maybe had been the case in the past. So across all of our committees, we've shifted to more action-oriented minutes. The second part of that, which has been very helpful, is that it's been a lot cleaner and easier for us as an organization than to actually follow up on whatever actions are captured in that spirit. So I appreciate that we don't want it there either. We'll try to do our best to find a happy medium there, but for certain anything that was action oriented that made us forward our way, we'll capture it through KMT.
How is the public supposed to know what's happening in the committee and in the conversations? Even the supervisor who isn't here would rely on minutes. If they're not here, is this video or meetings being recorded? Can those videos be looked back on? Is there a transcript from those that is available? I understand what you're saying, that it's actionable items and it's easier to go through and it's easier to capture and resources are tight, but this is a public meeting for the public from a public school board with a supervisor who's not here, and any recommendations or conversations that come out of our meetings need to be able to be seen and referenced.
Certainly through you, appreciate the comment. Two perspectives. One, our supervisor has confirmed, I think, Kate, that he's happy to join a future meeting of SEAC at some point in time, perhaps the next one, but I'm not sure of the details when he'll be attending, but has definitely indicated an interest there. When it comes to the sort of the conversations that happen, by all means, individuals are free to attend the meeting, whether it's in person or online. With respect to the minutes, and especially play-by-play comments, again, the greater detail that staff have tried in the past to put in, the greater that commentary resulted that, well, I didn't exactly say that, I framed it this way, it's not what we captured. So we're trying to do our best to capture, to your point, the spirit of the decision made and the rationale, along with any action that follows suit. So we'll try to do our best to capture the spirit of the meeting, but certainly not a play-by-play or a comment-by-play.
No, certainly not. That would be very hard to type out, for sure. I can appreciate that. Okay.
Sue. So just hold for 1 second. Okay. Okay. Go ahead. I'm gonna have to repeat your question because I can hear because I'm sitting beside this computer, but most of the room can't. So maybe do it in chunks. So the question is why we aren't live streaming anymore.
Thanks, Sue, for the question. So, we've been directed that all meetings are open to the public and that members can be here in person. Any committee member and delegate can participate online remotely. But at this point in time, the decision to not live stream is standing, and so members of the public will be joining us in person if they so choose.
So is the question, but why we aren't live streaming? Go ahead.
Really just the direction we've had.
Yeah, so I think the direction came from the Ministry of Education, correct me if I'm wrong. So it came up from way up above. I'll just try to summarize. So basically, Sue's comment was that like we're using Zoom. Zoom has a capability through AI to actually transcribe the meeting, and therefore it wouldn't actually involve staff time. And the question was why aren't we using that technology?
Through you, Madam Chair, an excellent question and conversation we're having as staff to try and find increasing ways to use emerging technologies to capture, whether it's minutes, actions, where it may be. So a valid point raised and something we're looking into.
Okay. Lindsay, go ahead. Sorry, I'm gonna have to try to summarize the best as I can. That was a great point, Lindsay. So her point was that, well, she didn't want to belabor the point, but the point in the minutes, talking about 6.1 about the presentation, there were several questions and comments, and there were things in there she was hoping would show up, and haven't. So again, like more details in the minutes. Like, is that good, Lindsay? Anything we need to highlight? Okay, thank you. Sorry. Or fun technical issues. Okay. Okay. Sorry, one sec. If you're, in the back, if you're recording, we need to ask you to stop, please. Sorry.
But it's public.
I've been told that we aren't allowed to allow recordings in meetings.
I have recorded every meeting I've attended, and I have every meeting saved from every SEAC meeting and every board meeting I've attended in the last 2 years. Why would this be any different today?
Go ahead.
That's been our charge.
So the board has been told that we aren't allowed to.
You are not allowed to, but I'm a member of the public.
Okay, we can take a 5-minute recess and we'll come back.
Look at you. I recorded last month's meetings. Just didn't do that. I didn't read it.
And we're gonna write that one down.
Normally people here.
Oh, yeah. This is technical issues.
Just
Yeah.
separate from the live streaming phone?
Well, that's deliberate. This
No,
is
no,
not.
I get, this is
Yeah.
not.
No. Kelly wants to die on it. But that's why Bobby, this is, Pino shouldn't be in this situation. Bob needs to take responsibility for this decision, not director of education.
Okay, so online, can you hear me? Sue, can I get you to unmute and just try? We're gonna see if we can get the sound working again. Oh, that's better, yes. Thank you. Okay.
And then if you want, you can also turn on Is this the one that's on the screen? Yes, if you click on more, you can also have it do the.
Okay. So we're just getting clarification from legal.
And then they can sue you or do whatever they have to do. Because he's texting our lawyer, or the lawyer. I mean, you can text 10 lawyers, are going to give you, he's going to get the answer he wants to hear. There's nothing illegal about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Period. End of story. Even if the law says it is.
Okay.
Just in case I couldn't, because I couldn't get on it. I forwarded the package, and it shows it there, but it's not. You couldn't do it.
Oh, Andrew, yeah. But, yeah, he's not.
Calling a lawyer in the middle of the night, that's gonna cost big bucks. So, they're calling one. There's nothing illegal there. So, if the lawyer comes back and says it's illegal, the school board has a really bad lawyer. Like, why is people changing it? Go somewhere and figure out how it can be illegal. It's not everything else. I feel like I'm living. Not a country. They get to know them all, kids know them all. She is what, she is so. How old is McKenna now? Like I know Billy likes it.
Just in time, all around.
So there's a lot more there. It's great, you know, so there's a few kids from camp. You said you were a fan.
Special needs parents, yeah. And I've been attending meetings and mostly I do online because I'm a single mom. It's hard to get to meetings and usually I have to be home for bedtime at 8 p.m. Which means I miss all of the meetings. Tonight I'm paying for a sitter to watch my son so I can stay all night. Because I think that it's important for us to be here. And we normally as parents we have to have watch parties at home. So we actually watch the live stream regularly. And that way we can put headphones on, walk around the house, bathe the kids, put the kids to bed while listening to the meeting. And then we have a group chat where we can decipher what's being said so we understand how it's going to go. You from home because you're going to socialize with somebody else in the chat so we can stay on top of politics. And we've been doing this for like a year and a half. So we have like 40 people at home tonight watching the live stream and deciphering what will be said in the meeting. So, and as you can see, 40 people weren't going to fit in this room anyway. And there's actually, there's a group of 200 of us, but not all 200 of us are ever available for the same, stream. So usually we only get 30, 40 people for one party a night. Because they're not live streaming it anymore, because the provincial government has decided that this is not necessary and is giving them up to consider to not okay. So all the boards and supervision in the province have been told not to live stream it. And to me, one, because we've been doing this for so long,
It's all one level, everything's,
there shouldn't be a problem in it unless you're trying to hide something. So what are they hiding? Now I have to come in person to see what they're hiding. Otherwise I'd be at home right now on my couch, which is way more comfortable. Yeah, it was, yes. Yes. Yes, that is very good to know. And then I think it was yesterday, there was a Toronto, was it yesterday or Monday? I think it was Monday. Monday night, one of the Toronto weekends, I believe it's the Toronto Public Forum, they weren't able to live stream either. So the Ontario Autism Coalition live streamed on our page. And so that's why I'm live streaming right now to the Ontario Autism Coalition page. Yeah. We don't necessarily need to blast it to the province. It'd be better if they just did it locally here, so our local folks could see it, but now the whole province can see it from where we're putting it. Oh, no. And all I need is a phone.
yeah, okay, yeah, some parents don't.
And it's an old phone. A very old phone.
And sometimes, like for the social, we love it for individual one-on-one.
Controversy over
It's for the group thing.
over something that is public
That's
and the
2
public
hours
is welcome
per day,
to.
Saturday morning club, trying to sleep.
Well, what are we hiding?
Yeah, it's more of a socialized,
And something for your
in case
knowledge.
something, you know, they get.
Having disabled kids, it's really hard to get out of the house and go. And a lot of this are single parents, which means that you're all by yourself with your kids, and it's really hard to get out the door. So this is I won't say it's a human rights issue, but it's definitely a disability and accessibility issue, which maybe somebody else can draw the parallel on human rights, because if you take away our accessibility, how are we supposed to participate? If you take away the ramp from the wheelchair, the person in a wheelchair, how are they going to get into the building? So, yeah, I have 0 answers. I was hoping that more information would be coming out during this meeting, so I could better understand why they would take away our ability to watch from home.
No, it triggers.
Yeah.
So she did, that's
Yes,
good.
definitely. Yeah, you can take my notes.
We have okay. Yeah, that would be like. It's good. Most of the time.
Yeah.
But the mornings are well, actually, we're trying to see more at it.
Yeah. Yes, it does.
Meeting tomorrow. Organizations they're at the hall.
Better for you.
And they work with young adults, 16 to 25 actually.
Yes.
Try to place them to work, so we started with one program of theirs. And they place the kids or the youth, so we kind of tutor them along, help them teach them, so that they're ready for work. We just started that this year. They've seen it. So we meet tomorrow, but we'll have more programs. Not just instructors. We gotta get the people, the tutors. A lot of service. Oh.
Like, we're at 100%, we don't ever say, I do this because of something that happened, but you know, it's not good, right? But like, you guys are like the bridge between the situations that are so like, if you actually say now, do this, you have, right, learn how to do it, right? Whereas, what if you go from like,
Oh, no, it's not really like this. Yeah, it's not that. This isn't normal.
No.
This is just bad luck. Like I feel for.
Normally I'd be at home with my headphones listening.
Yeah. Do you always recorded these?
Yeah.
Nobody's noticed.
No. Actually, people have noticed. Like, I know, like I would often like I wouldn't necessarily hold it like that, but like I'd usually put it down or I'd voice record. And there were a number of people that like when the phone is out, they would like look at it and I would see that they could see that I was voice recording. Because of voice recording, I can easily share or I can put directly into a group chat. So sometimes there'll be something that's said that I'm like, oh, we need to remember this. And so I'll drop that little clip into a group chat so we can review that policy so we understand.
I know where they're going. They're just saying worst case scenario. They're here, so somebody's here to, you know, catch us on something. It's, you know what? 99% of people just want to get the information to help themselves.
And you know what the funny thing is? Like our group, because we all have children that are disabled, we have watch parties. So we actually get all of our parents. We usually have 30, 40 parents on any given night, like where we put our headphones on and we listen to the meeting, and we at the same time have a group chat going on. So if we miss a part of the meeting because we're dealing with our kids, we can catch up.
Continue now.
Yeah.
So, the policy is that to record meetings, you have to have consent of everyone. In the past, we always knew these were being recorded. However, this month with the policy change, that is necessarily an assumption. For tonight, we're going to continue ahead. If anyone has an issue with not consenting to be recorded, please bring it up. Otherwise, we'll continue this meeting and we'll end up having to revisit this in a future time to get an official policy. All right, so we're on mover to receive the minutes. Are there, yes, go ahead, Anthony.
While we were in the thick of things at the discussion, because I was going to bring it up as new business, but for the record, and if we didn't include it in the minutes, I believe it's a critical issue. The minutes legal duties under the Accessibility Act 2005 and its regulations.
Sorry, maybe we just want to see if we agree with the minutes, and then we can move along. So we can bring that in new business, but okay. So do we have a mover for the accepting the minutes, to receive the minutes?
Just clarification. Okay, so if we want to receive the minutes, does somebody have the opportunity after that, right?
You wanna add something, or you ask that question?
So, yes, so the next question is, are there any errors or omissions?
Okay, good.
So we
I'll-
can receive them, so
I'll
Mike,
receive them.
okay, now, are there any errors or omissions? So now we can bring up anything specifically if we want to
Gotcha.
add to the minutes.
Okay.
Good question.
A
Go
few
ahead,
omissions.
Sonia. Yes, go ahead,
May-
please.
May I provide my notes as I have in the past and have them added?
Go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair,
Yes.
send them on to staff and we'll try to encrypt, and especially the ones, as I mentioned, that are action oriented.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
So you don't have to go through them now.
perfect. Any more errors or omissions? All right, seeing none. So all those in favor?
I was absent.
Yeah, that's fine. Carried.
Don't wanna-
Perfect. Forward agenda. The forward agenda has been provided for information purposes. Are there any additions or changes? I'll note that we did speak about having the legal team come in and talk about SEAC and orientation and procedures and stuff like that. They weren't available for tonight's meeting, so that's why it's on November's meeting, but anyway, it will be happening. Any further questions or things to be added? If you think of anything in additional like topics we should discuss, then feel free to email myself and Sue, and we can, address this or get it added for the next meeting. Moving on to item 6, discussion items. I now call upon Superintendent Stout and Program Manager Chung to present the LSS document Everyday Counts, providing a district-wide strategy for supporting student attendance.
Thanks so much, Kathy, and it's exciting for us this evening to be bringing this to you. So we'll pass around the table a paper copy if you are interested. It is attached in the agenda as well. If there's any extra copies, then we can circulate them to members of the public if they're interested as well. So you'll remember last year that Melissa and myself came and shared with you some information about attendance. And so that was part of our move towards this exciting opportunity where we have now published an attendance strategy for the DSB. And so this was the collaborative efforts from a central attendance strategy team. It was a lot of work went into this from our attendance counselors and social workers who helped to pull together a lot of material, but also to kind of consolidate it into what we really see as a holistic approach to attendance for our district. This has been published on our website today, and so any member of the public who searches DSB attendance strategy can find not only this document, but some other helpful links and resources on our website as well. So we wanted to take you through a little bit of our thinking, where we're at, where we've landed, and certainly knowing our conversation from last year when we discussed this also helps to add contributions to the document. So just to kind of to root us in where we are and why we landed here. So part of the mental health and well-being strategy includes our 3 pillars of belonging, building, and bridging. And this is part of the mental health strategy that's been in place for a couple of years now, and certainly it's our rooting document. Attendance is part of the student achievement plan that we report on to the ministry. It's part of the important data that we bring forward that speaks about student wellness and engagement. And so it really is a big part of the the mental health and well-being strategy. And really the goal here is to kind of root our thinking in that identity affirming, strengths-based, evidence-informed work that we use to really make sure that we are thinking holistically about how we're supporting students. So when we think about belonging, we want to make sure, of course, that every student feels that they belong at school and in their classrooms. When we think about building, and just a reminder that these are tiered approaches. So belonging is that tier 1 approach. building, thinking about tier 2 approaches and how we can build the skills to foster positive mental health and well-being in our students. And then at a tier 3, the bridging, and where we're looking to bridge identity affirming mental health care to services in the community while we're supporting them here at school as well. So that's the direct link to the mental health and well-being strategy, and that directly links to the annual action plan that we write for mental health and well-being. And so attendance is one of the main pillars that we do focus on, ensuring that when we have students in school, we know that they're able to learn and be productive in their classrooms. And when we know when students miss a lot of school, it does have a big impact on their achievement and their social emotional growth and on their chances of graduating. And so in general, the definition of what we report to the ministry on is 90% attendance. And so that is when students are in the classroom learning for 90% of the time or more. And so our hope through this attendance strategy is that we really are leaning into those tiered interventions to ensure that when we have a student who is struggling to reach that threshold, that we are having proactive and strategies that can help sooner, earlier intervention. So some of the data that we have around attendance, we know that in 2022-2023, 59% of elementary students were attending 90% of the time or more. That was a 15% increase from the previous year. We, of course, have our eye on that number. We're conscious of the fact that many of the students who are struggling to come to school are students who are impacted in other ways. And so often it is students who have special education needs, it is students who are from low socioeconomic status, it is students where they are Indigenous and otherwise racialized or marginalized. And so we do need to really be digging deep into school-based data to be understanding who these students are that are struggling to get to school and how we can be more proactive in our approaches to supporting them. So why does early attendance matter? I spoke a little bit about some of those pieces, but we know that early attendance habits are important. They build a strong foundation for literacy, math, and learning in other subjects. We know that when students are at school, there is positive emotional growth and routines that help students to develop those social skills, feel secure at school, and have that sense of responsibility. We know that good attendance helps students around mental health and well-being support. It helps for people around to see early signs of stress or anxiety that's creeping in. And this is an essential way of supporting student well-being. We also know that good attendance leads to high graduation rates and long-term success, and that this will help with building academic achievement, personal responsibility, and an understanding of the value of education. And of course, it is part of keeping family and community engaged. And so when there's regular attendance, parents feel engaged in their students' education, and we can help connect families to resources when they are starting to struggle. Within the strategy, you'll see a few tables to help really define what certain words mean and what certain numbers mean when it comes to school attendance. And our hope here is to really raise some awareness to the number of days that we're talking about when we have students missing school. So when a student is missing 2 days or less a month at the elementary level, that is within that 90% threshold. And of course, as you go up, you can see the number of days. So when a student is kind of at a tier 3 level, where that's 30% or more, they're missing approximately 6 or more days a month, which equates to over the course of a year, over 300 hours missed of learning. You can see the secondary numbers there as well. Excuse me. And so all of these pieces really led us to kind of thinking about what were some important pieces of information that we wanted to include in the strategy. And so you'll see very distinctive connections, links to the Indigenous and Equity Roadmap and the Mental Health and Wellbeing Strategy. We really try to focus this strategy around holistic, strengths-based approaches where we honor the knowledge and wisdom of students and their families. It requires staff to reflect upon our own biases and to be conscious of how the historical and current systemic discriminations in schools have impact on students attending school. We know that attendance is not the reason students miss school can be complicated, and that it's not simply just that a student doesn't want to attend. And so we need to make sure that we are really thinking in a proactive, preventative measure, that we are really trying to bring together school staff, families, and community partners, and to build that trust with families that we're in this together. And so throughout the strategy, we've woven through those 3 key pillars around belonging, building, and bridging, so that we can try to demonstrate to families our commitment to having students attending school on a regular basis. So I'll pass it over to Melissa to share a little bit more of some of the content.
Thank you. Certainly a lot of attendance in this room the last time I presented in March, and so really appreciate being able to come back with something a little bit more wholesome. And things have really moved quickly within the school board, which has been incredible to see. So with this strategy, we kind of showed a version of this triangle before, which is really trying to be proactive and having everyone speaking the same language within our school board. So really understanding at what point are we getting the right supports in place. And so when we look at the foundation, it's all of the things that all the school board works towards all the time, the professional development with their staff and administrators, and having schools that are in high quality education and focused on mentally healthy classrooms and the strong foundations that everything is built upon. The tier 1 strategies, and I'm going to go into them a little bit more, but that's kind of the universal prevention, and we have the 10% for that, under 10%. When we're starting to look at early intervention, we had roughly said 20 before, but it's the 11 to 29%, and that's when we're starting to see some concerns around some chronic absenteeism. And then our tier 3 is for the few who are at the 30% or more for absenteeism, and really where we need to come in with some more intensive support and bridge to other resources. So when we are talking about the tier 1 and belonging, we always want our schools to be positive, welcoming places where students feel like they can belong. And above all, this is the best prevention tool. We have continuously kept attendance as a topic of discussion throughout all of our meetings with staff. We meet as a central attendance team at least every other month to make sure that all of the departments are working together, because everybody really does care and can each kind of help each other out. And so we have been able to move forward with so many things, I think, because of that. We've been talking about attendance promotion campaigns and how we're able to do that at a board level, and really trying to get the strategies and resources in place, both for, we're building a bit of a toolkit for parents that we have access to. I'm going to attach it to the minutes of this actually. About some resources that are in the community around supporting attendance. We are working on administrator and educator toolkits to be able to help support and ongoing work that's happening within schools that we are seeing and hearing about all the time, or all the things that schools do to welcome families in, and the welcome barbecues and the newsletters going home, and the communication and getting to know their students and building those connections at the beginning of the year are the things that will happen for all students and really help students feel like school is a place where they want to be. For tier 2. So the focus here shifts on early intervention, and the key to this is the data. And one of the biggest pieces we were able to do in partnership with our business and learning technologies and also with our REAP department was to be able to get a dashboard for schools that we actually went today to them, where they can have all the attendance data at their fingertips, which is something that they had asked for. So we had been saying we need to take a look at the students who are starting to miss school at each of those tiered levels, and so now they're able to do that really easily. They already had a way of doing it, and we're already having school-based attendance team meetings to start to talk about the students that they need to worry about in terms of chronic attendance, but it's really something that's going to make that a lot easier for them to get a sense of who is it that's missing school, and then understanding why. Because the earlier that we can intervene, the more we're able to pull in supports And then if we're able to do that, then there will be as many students reaching tier 3. So we really want to work to re-engage at that point. And then for tier 3, we really want to, students who are experiencing this much attendance concerns, it really needs to be more intensive, individualized support, and a number of other people need to be able to come in. So we want to be able to bridge the gap between the student, the school, the family, and external resources who can help support. We're always wanting to work alongside parents and caregivers to understand what the barriers are and develop a plan of support to be able to have them return to school. And we always want to be able to continue to work with our community partners on how they're able to support students within the community and families and caregivers, so that there's all of us kind of wrapped around to make sure that the support's in place. So when we're looking at each of the tiers, we really want to make sure that every student is able to access the right support at the right time, and that everybody is kind of working consistently within the same guidelines. So we did hand out this pamphlet the last time that we were here with you, and it is available on our board website under the school attendance under the parent portal. And we are very thankful for the partnerships that we have working in the community. They continue to build all the time because, as I said, everyone is really concerned about school attendance, and everyone wants to play a part in being able to support. So our partnership with Leo continues, and they have this pamphlet that we do share regularly with families. We really wanted families to know and want to be able to communicate that we really want to be able to do whatever we can to make sure that they build, like, we are understanding the reasons why a student is not attending school. It's very individualized, and so we want to be curious about what the reasons why. We know how important relationships are, and we want to be able to support anyone.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you for the presentation. Go ahead, Anthony.
The third external support, is that those listed in the liaison with community services, or is there more to it?
Sorry.
For bridging, sorry, when it comes to getting tying together school, family, and external support, what kind of external support is it? I may get asked that among my community members.
That is, it's very individualized depending on what the family needs. We have some who typically are helping with families depending on who it is. It could be Youth Services Bureau if it's a teen. It could be Crossroads Children's Center. It could be one of the Indigenous agencies who supports families. And so we have a whole number of community partners, and it really is about who the family is already connected with and then who might be able to help. So we do have a list. I believe we have like a list of resources on our site, but it would be very dependent on what the family's needs are.
It's quite varied.
Yeah.
And Alana, I think it's also important to note that that would be work that would be ongoing in consultation with the school team, but also with the school social worker who are our attendance counselors. So that the notion is that we're wrapping around to try to understand more and then to help build the plan to support. And so again, it would be very individualized based on what the family is looking for in terms of that kind of support, but also the relationships that they have with the members of their support team. So, you know, they might work very closely with the attendance counselor, and they might be building a small stepping kind of scaffolded strategy to have the student return to school. Or maybe there's one particular part of the day we're really going to focus on so that we can ensure that that student has the opportunity to build confidence or to meet a certain goal that they have set for themselves, and then continue to work towards whatever next steps might be. So it's intended to be responsive to their.
Generally, when it gets to the tier 3 as well, families are already involved with other community support, so sometimes it is about bringing everyone together around the table or having the connecting conversations and all working on the same page and same plan to be able to coordinate it.
Thank you. Sonia.
The last time we talked about this, we had some questions surrounding, I had some questions surrounding exclusions. and how, exclusion sort of fit into this attendance strategy. And we talked about, if there's data, where there's data, and, if we could get data, on exclusions, hard or soft, especially within the autistic community. A lot of students, are, under exclusion for various reasons. And so knowing what we know about how, absence from school affects mental health and that sense of belonging, in school, what are the plans inside of the attendance strategy to deal with exclusions? I don't see anything written here. I'll trail off and let you carry on.
Yeah, it's a fair statement, and so I think, again, I'll start by saying that each and every one of those situations is individualized and should be being responded to and worked through with the school team, with the family, and kind of, again, determining what the best plan is. So there's not a one-size-fits-all answer to your question. I certainly acknowledge that we have talked about the data around exclusions, and that is something that as a district we are looking at, and something that it's not captured concretely in one particular area. So that is something that we are focusing on and trying to kind of gather more information about, but at this time I don't have any, and we anticipated that you would be curious about that, but yeah, and it's not, you know, it's not that we're trying to avoid the conversation. If you recall, Superintendent Keene came last May and brought forward the suspension and exclusion report, and so from that time we're still working through some of those pieces. So not to say that it's that I don't have any information to share with at this time. What I do think, though, is an important part of the strategy and an important part of the exclusion conversation is that we all have a goal that we're working towards, and so which is to have students in school full time. And so when that is not happening, that is the conversation that has to be happening on an ongoing basis about what's the plan to the very next step. And I don't believe that there are any students on exclusion without reason. That being said, I don't believe that having students on exclusion for a long duration of time is a solution either. And so that's where I think it is important that school teams are working in collaboration with learning support services, working in collaboration with community partners to try to be coming to the table with ways to ensure that students can be supported at school for the full school day.
What types of resources or information can parents get readily to work with the school or to ask about or understand? Like if I had a child who was excluded, or of course, like everybody has a reason for being absent from school, right? And I looked at this, I'd be like, I don't fit into this anywhere, like at all. I don't know where to go from here. I don't know what to do. Maybe it's a school that isn't as transparent as we would like. Are there any kind of resources or questions that, you know, like a parent could go to the site and like look for questions to ask or action plans to take to sort of work with the school to get to the end of an exclusion maybe quicker, or maybe, you know, come up with a different type of solution if possible? I mean, I know it's all individualized, but I'm just trying to think from a parent's perspective, like if that's happening, like where do I go? Because I wouldn't see me fitting in this strategy.
I appreciate the feedback, and I think it's important for us to consider the types of resources we can provide to families. I will say that I think often in those situations, the people to have those conversations with are engaged, like the parents are asking the questions of those teams, and if they don't feel that they can, then I hope that they would be able to go to the website, maybe see the Clio link, perhaps you know, reach out and say, I want to talk about this with who is this attendance counselor? I see this word here. Who is that person? Can I talk to them? So I do think that open dialogue with the school is really imperative. That's where always we want parents to be going to. And if they feel that they aren't getting traction or they feel like they can't get the answers they're looking for, then by all means, they should be reaching out to Learning Support Service to say, this is my problem and I don't know how to solve it, can you help me? I think I appreciate the feedback around there be like maybe an FAQ of some sort, or like maybe it's is this happen, like maybe some scenario type of situation. I know we've talked about that in the past. And so we can look at kind of another, just like we're doing kind of an educator and administrator toolkit, perhaps there could be a parent toolkit that could be a bit of a complement.
Yeah, and even like turn it, but even to turn it around a little bit, just to say like, some parents don't know what to say, maybe I thought of, think about it when I get home and not in the moment, or a week later and it's too late, that kind of thing. Even like, a set of prompts for the school to sort of, to say, and I'm not saying that they don't all the time, but just to remember to offer Clio, offer this, offer that, like, go to the website, like, we have these are the types of things, just to kind of always say or offer to the parents so that they feel, that collaboration, right?
And I think that's the intention behind this, is to really kind of have a public facing document that's available to everyone to see, this is how we do this work together. And so staff absolutely should be leaning into these pieces to say, here's why we are doing this, or here's one of the resources we can use together, or let's try, to connect with a community partner. So certainly that is the intention behind creating a strategy that is transparent to all of the interest holders in the district, and to try to find a shared understanding of what our commitment is to attendance.
Thank you. Lorianne.
Lorianne with FASD 1. Yeah, I really like this. I just wanted to say that I like it. I feel it's quite holistic, and it's certainly an issue for kids with FASD. School refusal, parents really struggling to get their kids to go in the morning, all of those kinds of struggles. So I really like this. My one question was, you mentioned at the very beginning about data that you collect, and looking at existing data to really dig into some of those identity factors that help understand things better. And I'm wondering if within that data that if you're collecting particular exceptionalities or disabilities, and of course my interest is FASD, but just in terms of how that might inform solutions.
What a really interesting question, Lorianne, thank you. So in general, when we talk about students with special education needs, the way we measure that is for students who have an IEP, and often you'll hear us say special education excluding gifted. Sometimes we do sometimes measure by students who have been IPRC, but even that, that data doesn't necessarily give us information by disability. So at this point in time, I don't think we have the capability, but I certainly can take a question back to our research evaluation analytics department and see if there's other avenues in which we could gather that. I will say that Melissa spoke very briefly about the data dashboard that was launched just today to principals, but it really does give the opportunity for school principals to work with their school teams to really dive deeper into the school profiles that exist in their school. And so they can track individual students, and that is one way that a principal who has that direct information about a student because they work with them on a regular basis to really be thinking differently perhaps about how to support a student, especially when they may have a factor like a disability that's impacting kind of how they are experiencing school. So while at a district level we might not be able to get that quite that granular, I do think at a school level there would be information that the school teams have that helps them to see and can see those data trends. So I appreciate though kind of the nuance that you're getting at around really understanding the differences between what our students are experiencing in school. So thank you for that.
Thank you. you. Sue?
So, just a question around, accountability at the school level when students have really high levels of absenteeism and so the parents have reached out and, they've gotten nothing back, no support, no nothing, the school basically, ignores. Kate, you know exactly the situation I'm talking about. Like last year, so I'm just gonna say it right out, my kiddo had a 50% absenteeism rate for the second semester. We tried to reach out to the school repeatedly to get some support. I was given a list of, psychologists, and that was the support we got. So I'm wondering, for parents that may be experiencing the same sort of thing, what is their recourse when the school just kind of throws their hands up and just ignores the problem?
Thanks, Sue. So I think, in general, like in any situation, if a family is feeling like they are struggling, with information at the school level, or they're not satisfied perhaps with communication, they always have the opportunity to reach out to the superintendent of education for the school. Certainly, if it's a student with special education needs, we take a lot of those phone calls directly here, through Learning Support Services. Heather and the team will answer your question and try to direct you to the right place. But the question will always be, have you connected with the school? And so when you're feeling like, that yes, I have, and I don't quite know what to do, that's when we would look to kind of, again, gather a little bit more information and try to work alongside you to get a bit closer to what the barrier seems to be.
Thank you.
So, if I had, so I would like tell parents that's in this sort of situation to, you know, and then the child has multiple exceptionalities, to contact Learning Support Services. Is that kind of where that would go?
I think that if a family is feeling like they haven't been able to make the progress that they feel they need to, through the school, then reaching out to the superintendent of instruction for the school is often the first way to go. But when it is specific to a student with special education needs, and perhaps you're wondering, is the Learning Support Services Department involved? Then that's a good place. It's a good opportunity to just reach out, and we have a generic email, but also you can phone and just ask to be connected to the Learning Support Services Department. Do you want to add something?
So on the OCDSB website, there is a Connect with OCDSB responding to concerns, and it has a flow chart as well. So it is something that we can direct families to as well. So just kind of saying where's your first level looking for help if you're not getting the answers that you need, then what would be the next one? Just so I can put that link somewhere.
Is that specific to absenteeism, or is that just in general?
It's in general.
Thank you. Anthony, I think I saw your, go ahead.
Sonia made a really good point about fitting in. And this, like, whether it be bridging, belonging, or building, but bridging that triad, the school, family, external support, it brings a point about the family, and not that the family is to blame, but that family component is so important, and yet it can fail, and so if it's not working very strongly, and that child is very dependent on the family, and especially younger ones, but the older ones too, if I'm trying to say that trying to one early belonging stage, trying to really, that early stage is really important, because that's where you're trying to work on that early, but then when it gets to the bridging phase, also trying to work on that, and if the family's not there, and even at that belonging stage, trying to catch that early, working with that, because that child may not have that family piece, that strong piece, or it's just how do you work with that? Because that, in those situations is very tricky. There's textbook cases and real life cases, like, it's very real. I've myself seen them. I think within here at table, we've known those, and so it's.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think that's why when we're talking about attendance, the individual realities of every situation that is the determining piece around what is the best course of action for that particular student and that particular family. Certainly in situations that are complex, we lean into our multidisciplinary team to support. Often, there would be a conversation about who is the best connected to the family, to the student, so that we are seen as supporting, not perhaps, directing, or maybe seen as kind of sticking our nose in where we're not welcome. So we do try to really be mindful of who's the best person to connect, and to start to understand what some of those barriers are. The individual nature of each case really is such an important factor when it comes to then kind of building that plan, and that plan does need to be specific for that student and that family and what their experience is.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm thinking of like, where not sticking that nose into that, whether you're sticking out, that kid be crying for help too at the same time.
Absolutely.
Needing really support.
Well,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The school social workers are the dual role of attendance counselors, and so we have both the clinical training and experience working with families from all different kinds of backgrounds, as well as the kind of mandate to have students attend school. So all of the school social workers are quite skilled in working and supporting families, and I would say just having done the role myself, I've never met a family who didn't want the best for their child, no matter what, if they have other challenges or barriers in place for whatever reason. And so it's really about building up that community support around that family to help them kind of reduce those barriers so that their child can attend school. So that's where we're often pulled in and doing a lot of work and connecting to the community and supporting through that. So sometimes it can take a really long time, and sometimes there's lots of services that need to come into place, but there's always the want for the child to succeed and to do well in some way. It's just figuring out what do we need to do to get there, and we do.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Up next, we have a presentation of IEP and IPRC parent information. I now call upon Assistant Principals Lyon and Shulman to share the documents.
Thank you, Kathy. I'll start off with the Individual Education Plan, or IEP, which is the legal document in Ontario to support students with special education needs. And parents are pivotal in the development of IEPs, and it's important that parents have the information they need to know in order to collaborate with the school teams. And we support parents with this information in a few ways. One is we develop an IEP parent guide, is handing out. And the second way is we actually go to work with our community partners to support parents. For example, on September 27th, I was at a school where Parents for Diversity were hosting an IEP session with parents, and about 30 parents were there. They really needed support with understanding IEPs and their role in the IEP of their children. And again, in November, we're going to the family conference and talking about IEPs at the family conference, because we think it's important parents know what IEPs are for and how they can support it. So we have created an individual education plan, and here are some of the tips that we have shared in the plan. First of all, if you're having a student who is having struggles at school, their first stop is to sit and talk to a classroom teacher. So these are some of the things that we have outlined in the individual education plan, concrete steps for parents to support their children at school and support the development of the IEP that will help guide their child's learning in the school and in the classroom. The individual education plan also talks about additional resources that parents depend on, including looking at the special education plan, and looking at the SEAC member organizations, reaching out to you to gather some information from you. So those are some of the tips we have put in our IEP education guide, as well as we explain what is an IEP, when you can have one, what it may contain, accommodations, modifications, alternative expectations, and a transition plan. Each of these are defined in the IEP guide, so give the parents the information they need to have these conversations with their children. We relate to parents as a valued and integral partner in the development of the IEP, and making sure it's implemented as well. Parents can support the implementation of the IEP with some, ensure that they're looking at the IEP each term to see if the goals were met and whether the parents want to have someone's goals too. So their role starts at the development of the IEP, continues throughout the school year, and again at the end of the school year, did their child meet the goal and what kind of goals they're going to be looking forward to for the next year. Also important for parents to be determining whether the child's goals have been met, and can we take them off the IEP? Because that's the conversation I'm presenting at some of these parent group meetings that I've been going to, is making sure that we're focused on closing that gap and identifying whether our children still need to be in IEPs, and looking at school on what you think is the best pathway forward for your child. Justin's going to be talking about IPRCs. Oh, sure.
So next slide, and we'll pass around the IPRC parent guide as well. So the IPRC is a formal process that's outlined in the Education Act, and the parent guide that we have, I feel, does a great job at giving parents the tools that they need to get an understanding of that formal process, and also an opportunity to ask questions of clarification, with their children's schools. And as a school principal, and even as a classroom teacher, it's fairly common to hear questions or to have questions about the IEP process and the IPRC process as well. So the IPRC process, IPRC is Identification Placement Review Committee. This slide that we've got here just outlines the four main goals of the IPRC. So if you have a student that already has an IPRC, that's already identified and has a placement, you would know as a parent that you get an invitation for a review every spring. So we typically send those out in the spring. They're fairly quick in nature, 15 to 20 minutes, just to review to see if there are any changes, and also to make sure that schools and parents and caregivers are on the same page with the identification and the placement. If you don't have an IPRC, as a parent you're requesting, or the school principal is going to request an IPRC, that's outlined here as well in the parent guide. But the IPRC has four main goals. You're looking at whether a student should be identified or not, and an IPRC can talk about whether there should be identification or not. If there is an identification, the categories of those identifications are on page 5 of the parent guide. So those would be, the exceptionalities are under the 5 categories. So behavior, communication, intellectual, multiple exceptionalities, and physical. And then we're looking at the appropriate placement. And as mentioned before, always reviewing, having that review component of the committee every spring as well. And if we go to the next slide, that'd be great. Thanks, Heather. Just some tips here. I would always say ask questions at a school level. Your school principal, vice principal, learning support teacher, learning resource teacher, and your classroom teachers, your homeroom teachers are always going to be there to support answering any questions you may have about the IPRC and IEP. If the educators that are working with your children don't have the answers, they'll certainly reach out to the appropriate supports to find the answers. At a system level, as it was alluded to earlier, you're always welcome to reach out to us at Learning Support Services if you have any questions. We sometimes often get questions around the appeal process, which is outlined in the parent guide as well. Speaking of the appeal process, there's a good sort of detailed outline of how that works in the parent guide. We often do have families reach out to the school teams to request a meeting after the IPRC to see if a resolution can be achieved prior to a formal appeal process. But those typically are always ongoing conversations with the school teams as well. Here as well, reflecting on what's best for your child, reflecting on what's best for an IPRC will always consider all the assessment data, formal and informal, that's brought forward to help with the identification and placement as well. And as well, communication and timelines, I always feel when it comes to an IPRC and an IEP, communication is key. So the initial phase of an IPRC, so if a parent reaches out to request an IPRC, as a school principal, we sometimes get those in emails. Reaching out by phone afterwards to talk about that, to just make sure that the parent feels confident in the process, and also making sure we answer any questions that they have. And making sure that this is all done in a timely manner as well is important. So yeah, thank you.
Any questions or comments? Mike?
Thank you. Great presentation, both of them. I like the way they come together, the IEP and the IPRC. Just a question for my own benefit, trying to understand. The two streams, that tip number 5 that you put up, Deb, have the two streams, those who get the IEPs, you know, the ones that are, it's mandatory if they have the IPRC, right? Somehow, if what's the scope of like how many students end up in that second category who, you know, if the principal can get the process going for an IPRC, how big a scope of kids are there that miss that first time the principal later on, you know what I'm trying to say, says, or somebody says this child needs to be, even though they don't have an IPRC or need an IEP.
Yes, we do have those numbers. I don't have them at the top of my head right now. There are more IEPs than there are IPRCs.
Right.
And IEPs can be started by a parent.
Yes.
So it's not always just the school team reaching out to the parent. So if a student's presenting with some learning challenges, and we think that an IEP will help support their needs, an IEP will be created. We don't have to have the functionality to have an IEP to support their
You don't go back to an IPRC process, so you don't have to, right? You just, that's what it just happens, they get the IEP.
Some parents know their children have exceptionalities and don't want them identified either, and they create an IEP in that case. So, you know, there are a variety of reasons we create an IEP, and you don't have to go back to the IPRC.
Sorry for not being too articulate, I first get person off, just.
Last year, we had about 16,000 students who had IEPs across the whole system. And about, I think, we were about 4,000 students who were IPRC. So it's about a third of the students who have an IEP that are IPRC. That's why we use IEP numbers as our special education numbers.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Anthony?
I have two. One, I guess the tougher one first. I hope this is not too. In terms of resourcing IPRCs and IEPs, and this might be a ministerial issue in terms of funding in very tough situations. It just came to me yesterday at my school council. We have at the high school, we have an opportunity, and this is a really pragmatic question. We have an opportunity room for the IEP students, and suddenly this week it's gone. It's now for the IEP, more like IPRC students, like the more intensive students that that are in crisis, that have more higher needs. And they now, so 3 of them, without going into, I don't know how the specifics are, but they now have the opportunity room, that it's called, for them. And then the IEP students no longer have this silence room for them to have a moment of silence. I believe that, I don't know what the conditions are for those students, but the IEPs that need a opportunity room to have quiet time, but they no longer have that opportunity room for them that they really need according to the IEP. So this is like a resourcing issue, and it's a concern for the parents. And
so I guess the first thing I would say is that at the school level, the principal is given allocations, and then they are looking at their school community and at the school context to say, okay, here's how these allocations will support students in a variety of ways. So in terms of different spaces to support students, certainly some principals might say, we have body break rooms for students to, they are working on a task, they go have a quick break, they come back and they continue working on a task. In some schools, they might have like a quiet zone where kids can kind of find a quieter spot to go and work on a task a little bit more focused. Those spaces exist right within classrooms where kids can access different kind of learning environments within their classroom. Maybe there's a wiggle stool, like lots of different environmental strategies to help support the variety of learners that might be in the space. From my perspective, I wouldn't want to hear that students accessing different spaces is because they have an IEP or not, or because they're identified or not. I think it's based on what the student need is in that moment. And so we have students who do not have an IEP who might go to a body break room. We have students who might not have, they don't need to have an IEP to get support to learn to read. That is something that is based on the data and evidence that we have, and we're trying to support them. So certainly some students' IEPs might suggest that a good accommodation would be a wobble stool to help keep them focused during a task. So again, I think I'm not sure if you I'm happy to talk it through a little bit more with you to understand your specific scenario. But I think ultimately those resources of the school, the principal is kind of looking at their whole school context and thinking, okay, here are the resources that I have, and here's how we as a school community are going to look at kind of creating the spaces that our students need. If there's something in a student's IEP, that the IEP is a legal document and that must be followed and provided for. So if for example, an alternate space during a test, if that is listed in our IEP, then that is something that needs to be provided to that student as it is part of the legal document in their individual education plan.
Yeah, regardless of accuracy or not.
Exactly. So I wonder, I'm happy to talk through a little bit more maybe the context of what you described, but I think ultimately a school principal might be looking at, okay, we are going to allocate these resources in a different way because right now we want to support students in this model. It doesn't mean that there wouldn't still be support for the students, I would like to think, who have an IEP, because those needs are documented and need to be met. So
it's just a matter of the parent working out things in general than just trying to communicating and working through things, I believe, in this case.
Yeah, perhaps.
Okay. And then in terms of second point, a lot of progress, many like Mike said, a very nice package there, and improvements over the past year too, great progress, and a lot of additional communication to the community. I was wondering if there's possible to even, and it's not easy because resource constraints in terms of legal collective agreements, I believe, discussing with, it's trying to get it to every possible school. It's communicating the, getting it, what I'm saying is there a possible way to maybe, for those events that you have for communicating the IEPs and IPRCs, to do it hybrid format, for example, if it's not already. And second, to have it recorded, so even though it might not be high at those times that it's not an event, have a recorded session, so if it's not already done, where a really well done recorded version, so that way it could be online, and so the parents they're so busy, or for whatever the reason they can't make it out, they can at any time see it and then view it, and then if they have questions, they can still reach out, where it's clearly said, come up and reach out to you.
Sure, on the website, that's absolutely something we can talk about. We'll get Deb and Justin set up with their camera, and they can do do a recording. But I appreciate what you're sharing here, which is some supplementary information, even to walk through the guide that could be online in conjunction with the guide, so that if reading it is not maybe the best way for someone to access it, they could see some information or find a way to access it. The other thing that I would say is, all of like the parent conference, for example, that's coming up, I think it's at the beginning of November, those sessions are all advertised through the updates that come through the director's office. They're advertised on the board website. Any opportunity through, principals are hopefully sharing them in their school updates as well. But those topics are all outlined there. And so we recognize that that families often, these processes are not easy to navigate. And so even with hopefully a helpful guide, it's still, how does this apply to me? It is a personal conversation, and feeling confident to reach out to your school principal or the learning support teacher or even your classroom teacher to say, I don't know what this means. Can you help me unpack it? That's a vulnerable situation to find oneself in. And so often parents will connect with even your organizations to say, this is my situation, can you help me through it? So I think anytime we want this to be accessible material to all families. We want people to feel that they are a part of a conversation, not that we are talking at them about an IEP, but also these are your children, and so it also comes with a real vulnerability around wanting to do whatever you can to support your child, and knowing that the people who are supporting you through that are alongside. So certainly we can look at some recordings and other ways to continue to elevate and highlight. But I think the other beautiful thing is that we also have community agencies reaching out to us to say, can you come and help our parent group understand this? And so if you are part of one of those groups, or your organization is thinking about hosting an event and you're interested in partnering with us, we are absolutely happy to come and be part of those conversations, so that there can be a board person in the room who can help to navigate those questions right on hand. Happy to be part of those.
Thank you. Melissa.
Hello, everyone. Two things. Last meeting, I thought I remember you saying that there was a teacher guide for IEPs now as well. And if I'm misremembering, I apologize. But if that's the case, I was just wondering how and where that's available for teachers. And the other thing was just about the proportion there between IEPs and IPRCs. And I know in elementary, having taught for about 20 years in the classroom in Ottawa, definitely many more students with IEPs than were IPRC'd. And I was just curious, I know in elementary, students are still developing, and sometimes, outgrow the need for an IEP, or if diagnoses are ongoing, and assessments are ongoing. So I was just curious if if the proportion is sort of static from elementary through secondary, or if more students become IPRC as they get older. Just curious.
I don't remember off the top of my head, sorry, Melcha, but certainly I can get the data for you, I just don't have it right in my head right now. In terms of the IEP teacher guide, yes, we do have a teacher manual, and it is it's on the learning support guide for educators. So Melcha, I did get your email, my apologies. We'll send you along the link so that you can share it with your members.
Thanks very much.
No problem.
Thank you. Lindsay?
Hi. The goals of the IPRC, on IPRC, include first deciding if a student should be identified as exceptional and then identifying the exceptionalities. I would presume that if a child hasn't received a diagnosis or an assessment, that could be a hiccup in the process. I can foresee that there might be an IPRC because it's clear that the child requires support, but the exceptionality has not been assessed or diagnosed. How does that get handled?
So I'm happy to get started, and then Justin, please feel free to step in. But ultimately, the diagnosis might not be the thing that we're looking for. It might be, but ultimately, an IPRC is fueled by a series of data points and information sources. So assessment data, classroom assessment data could be part of that. Information, even in a psychological assessment that is not a diagnosis necessarily, but that is informing any information that we have that does meet those ministry exceptionality definitions. So I think that is the part. Those definitions are set by the ministry, and so I know we do get feedback, and certainly it's information or feedback that we've also given to the ministry that the categories of exceptionalities might not be totally representative of how we would categorize students in our schools. But those are the current ministry definitions and the ones that we do have to use on an IPRC.
And just to add in as well, I think there's no harm in waiting for the assessment data to make a decision. Certainly the conversations can begin, but when we look at the type of supports that a student might need, there's no harm in waiting for that official, let's say, identification. So an example that I can think of, and I hope this answers the question, would be as a school principal, you have a parent reaching out to you saying, my child's going through an assessment, we expect the results in a couple of months, but we want supports right now. Well, yeah, absolutely. We could look at developing an IEP, and we could look at some assessment data from the classroom and connect with families about what they're seeing as well. So to get an IEP into place, you don't necessarily need an official assessment. There are all sorts of other points of data that we look at to support the student as best we can with an IEP, with, let's say, some accommodations. So, that's why I said there's no harm in waiting for that assessment data to come, whether that's privately or, of course, at a school level. Those are things that we work closely with in connection with families to make sure that the IPRC is as best informed as possible before making a decision.
Thank you. Thank you. Jess?
I'll just echo how I think this has even been tweaked in the last couple of years, and it's looking, I love the images, and I think all of that helps with accessibility. One of the questions we had raised by a parent was with respect to the list of placement options. And I think what they were noticing when they just looked at it is that it just kind of sounded like those placements were just like some different options that existed, and wasn't led by the kind of ministry statement about first considering the regular education classroom as the default placement, and if that wasn't appropriate, but then providing kind of the written rationale for special education placement. So that was a piece that was, that we were wondering if that could be reflected more clearly in the guide as it's to align with what the ministry has in there. Is that clear what I?
Yeah, like the kind of notion of the least restrictive environment for learning, like that we would.
Yeah, like that would first be, so in the ministry guide under placement options, it leads with, first consider, can the child's needs be met in the regular education placement? If not, then look at these other options. So it I think can be considered as sort of like a stepped process as opposed to let's all sit around and here we've just got these 5, let's pick one of these 5.
Yeah.
So that was some of what I said I would bring forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Any other further questions or comments? Go ahead, Sonia.
So I echo what Jess says. I think these guides are really nicely simplified, but also have a lot of information for parents that's helpful. Just some feedback, just from what I've been hearing recently from families. In terms of the IPRC and the process, it's kind of towards the end of the IPRC process where there's confusion in terms of like when you agree. It seems that a lot of parents aren't quite clear on when the decision is made. Like if you agree, you sign, you're good. If you don't do anything after 15 days, or is it 30 days, that it's just assumed that you agree, even if they didn't and they didn't know, if they wanted to appeal. So those technicalities, so I see page 8, it's kind of roughly outlined if a parent disagrees. I just think that in the moment when the parents are there, it needs to be more clearly outlined and defined by the committee to the parent, what their next steps are, like very clearly outlined to them, because I get that it says this here and we're all aware and clear, but it doesn't always land with it. It's a lot, right, for the parents to take on, and so those we hear a lot of well, I didn't know that, or I didn't sign it, and now like we can't get the placement that we wanted because I didn't know that if I didn't sign it, it meant that I agreed. Now I can't go back, I have to wait another year, like that kind of thing. So just some feedback in terms of like in the moment, just making sure that the parents really understand what their next steps are and timelines.
No, that's fair, and Kate, feel free to jump in. Our learning support teachers will send the parent guides ahead of time, which is good, and we realize, there's a lot of great information in there. And that's why I say communication in terms of tips for us as school administrators and the learning support teachers that are in the buildings, but also I think most importantly for parents and caregivers, that communication piece is essential. Don't be shy to ask questions ever. And I've had those questions come up even before an IPRC has occurred. Well, what if I disagree? What do I do? Hey, I'm glad you asked, and let me help walk you through it. And whether it's with this guide or an in-person conversation or just a quick phone call, that's why I always go back to the communication piece and ask questions of the school team. And going back to why I have learning support services on that slide as a tip as well, we're here for that support as well too. So, but no, that's you raise a good point. Sometimes the IPRCs are quick, as I mentioned. They can be, 15 to 20 minutes. Even the review in the spring are 15 to 20 minutes. And sometimes we don't often get that moment to just reflect and think for a moment. And some parents are really quick to sign, all right, let's go. So yeah, that's a good point, and we'll certainly take that back to chat about.
Thank you.
I just wanna, point something out. You mentioned that, parents have to wait another year. So an IPRC can be requested 3 months after the student's been in a placement, so it doesn't, you don't have to wait the whole year.
Yeah.
And then the other thing.
I try to tell.
Pardon?
I try to
Oh,
tell them
okay.
that, yeah.
Yeah, so you can, yeah, and then, the other thing is, like, once an IEP is signed, it's no less an IEP for a student who's identified versus an IEP for a student who's not identified. Both they're both legal it's a legal document, and they're viewed equally, and there's no sort of distinction in terms of, how things are implemented or how the student's services are received. It doesn't, they're both, it's a legal document, it's just what becomes just equal priority.
Excellent. All right, so we'll move on to the next point. So now call upon Superintendent Stout to provide her report.
Thank you. So on that note, IEPs will be delivered to families on October 14th. So just to let families know if they're asking or they're inquiring that is the date for IEPs for this year. That's not to say that's the only time when an IEP can be established, but and certainly it is a living document and intended to be updated throughout the year. But that initial IEP for this year, that's the date. Wanted to share with you some of the exciting initiatives happening. We have this year received funding again from the ministry for our after-school skill development programs. And so we will be running 2 programs this fall, including the Art of Play program and HERES, the program for the education and enrichment of relational skills. Art of Play focuses on supporting autistic students with other neurodiverse students with similar social skills needs. This program is offered for kindergarten to grade 2 age, and HERES supports autistic students and other neurodiverse students with similar social needs. This is a grade 7 to 12 program. It focuses on verbal skills, and students do need to kind of be in that average cognitive ability, as it is intended to be around development of conversational skills and interactions. We're running this in 26 schools, 13 for the Art of Play, 13 for peers. It is run by school team members, and it is run after school hours by those staff in the school. Feedback from parents and school staff is always really positive. The data that's collected is really demonstrates kind of the increase in that social significant behavior that can be generalized not only to classroom setting, but on the schoolyard and to other areas as well. So we're excited and grateful to Assistant Principal Lyon and her team for pulling that together again this year. It does require quite a bit of training in the system. However, it certainly has huge benefits to the students that can participate. I did want to share, as many of you are aware, September 29th was a professional activity day. Educators were engaged in learning about the strengths and needs of individual learners, applying this knowledge to instructional areas, specifically in math and literacy, but other topics also included AI, cybersecurity, and supporting students with prevalent medical conditions. And I will say that I did have an update from Superintendent Laverne today in Program Services regarding our ministry mandated literacy screeners. And so literacy screening is required for all year 2 kindergarten to grade 2 students. And the OCSB uses Acadian as the screening tool. This is designed to identify students who may be at risk of reading difficulty, and the tool is intended for early identification. So we, to date, have completed screening for all grade 1 and 2 students, and they are almost complete year 2 kindergarten students. Once that screening is complete, then our reading intervention teachers work with and alongside classroom teachers to help identify those students who are below benchmark and provide some targeted support in specific schools. That information then, of course, is used to target those gap areas, but also to continue to gather diagnostic information to help identify how we can further target students who are showing some early signs of being behind in their reading. I wanted to share with you some professional development activities as well that are available to educators in the district. And so the ministry does give us funding to support some teachers in getting their special education Part 1 courses. And so that
funding for that AQ additional qualification course for educators is available. And it is limited. We aren't able to provide for all of the educators who do request it, but it is a great opportunity to ensure that educators across the district have the opportunity to have a subsidized opportunity to learn about special education. In addition, we do have Saunderly courses that are offered through the Ministry of Education as well. Those courses include topics such as understanding and supporting students with autism, ABA for educators, level 1 and 2, supporting play-based learning for kids with autism, as well as ADHD and supporting students in the classroom. So those are some fantastic opportunities that our educators can take advantage of to kind of build their own skill set in supporting students with a variety of needs in their classrooms. Lastly, just to kind of wrap up where I started around attendance, we did have the pleasure of hosting a delegation from Sweden. Yesterday we went to 2 local schools and we were talking about student engagement and attendance. It's incredible what all of our schools are doing, but it's really great to be able to showcase some of those core initiatives in some of our schools. And we spent the afternoon talking about some of the things we're doing, not in the OCDSB, but also hearing from them what they're thinking about and trying to do to support students in Sweden. So those international opportunities I think are always really fantastic. We'll be joining them along with a few other members of the OCDSB team at the Canadian School Attendance Partnership Summit this Friday. And again, a fantastic opportunity for cross-collaboration with community and school boards to really be thinking about how to best support student attendance in our district. And so those are my updates for this week, month.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions? So the opportunity for teachers to take the, what percentage were you able, were most of the people that applied able to get it, or
Yeah,
what,
I
do
think
you have an idea?
No, well, I think we got the numbers this afternoon. We get a lot more requests than we are able to fund with the money that we get.
Okay.
I think last year we were able to support 26 or 27 educators in completing the full course. We've probably had many more requests. Unfortunately, the funding is finite, but it is nice that the funding is up.
Are teachers, if they were, could they self-fund if they wished?
Oh,
obviously
absolutely.
they would prefer.
Okay, yeah.
Is it, I was wondering if it was during the day and they had to, or
Oh,
something?
no, additional qualification courses are offered through the universities for any educators to take it. The nice part about this is that if they're, that it can be subsidized in them taking it, so, yeah. So
It may be great if they all work, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I'm not saying
sure.
that all the teachers should pay, I just was curious if it was
Yes.
this is the only route.
And the union self-subsidize as well at times too.
Okay, excellent. Melissa, oh, sorry, and then.
Yes, actually, I will say that the union offers up to $500 every 2 years for any educator that takes additional qualifications courses, and many do. I get that because I'm involved with that, and I get requests almost every day for different subsidies for that. So, and then the other thing, I was just curious which schools you visited when people came from Sweden.
We took them touring Brookfield High School and York Street Public School.
Thank you. Kathy?
I'm just wondering, how is the information about the Saunderly courses, because they're very good and they're very popular. How is that information disseminated to staff? Is it like a first come, first served basis? How is it, we just kind of want to make sure like how some staff are able to access it.
Yeah, thanks. We send it out in a memo. We send it out in a memo, so staff will receive it and share it with their staff. That memo is a first come, first served basis. Some courses are more popular than others, and they go very quickly. And then there are some courses that are free, that Saunderly offers, no fee, and there's unlimited registration, so that's always available. That will come out in a memo. We were just waiting for it to be allocated to us. It was just allocated today, actually. And so the memo will be prepared with what courses are being offered this time, and will be sent to principals.
So it's all sent to principals. Okay. And is there ever any priority to let's say if a teacher works in an ASD unit or something like that? Is there ever any priority for that? Or is that?
No, we support any teacher who wants to take it because the needs of the system are such that teachers in regular classrooms can benefit with the courses that are being offered. Sometimes we will direct the teacher to which course is the more appropriate one to choose, depending on the content of the course. And the level 1 course is free, and people who are signing up or wanting to take the course for the first time will suggest that they start with that course and move to others. And we look for the play one, we look for the younger grades that are signing up for that too. So we do a little bit of screening after first come, first served if there's too many people.
I know the process for memos and all that. Is there a way that maybe perhaps the LSCs could also share?
The LSCs do share, they share a summary of the memos that are pertinent, and that will be one that they do share with their LSTs.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you.
Yes, because we have heard back the feedback.
Pardon me?
We have heard the feedback. That
Oh, yeah.
we need to get information out more time.
Yeah, appreciate that, thank you very much.
All right, we're getting close to 9, so we'll move along. I now call upon Assistant Principal Lyon to introduce the special education plan standards for early identification procedures and intervention strategies.
We have 2 standards to go over tonight. The first one is the early identification procedure and intervention strategies. And it outlines a variety of topics. It is in alignment with PPM number 11 from the ministry, which is early identification of children's learning needs. The standard goes through what our philosophy is as a board, which is that we believe that early identification and continuous support are essential. Then it goes on to parent-caregiver involvement in this process. Talks about the assessment tools we are using. You can see Acadians is there. And then it talks about the tiered approach we have. And that's what's contained in the standard for early identification procedures and intervention strategies. So just a reminder that this is what happened last year. It will be updated with any new tools or information we have this year. PPM number 11 is still in place, so we'll still be following there. We are in alignment with that PPM. And we'll continue to be in alignment with that PPM.
All right, any questions or comments before we move on to the next standard? Just it mentions kindergarten too, but so I assume that'll be cut out to the September 2025 rollout of the new kindergarten curriculum. So
Yeah, that'll need to be
forever paused. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see, Lindsay. Go ahead.
Just a quick one, you said aligned with IPPM, what's that again?
Policy Program Memorandum 11, which is early identification of children's learning needs.
Thank you.
It was sent out in 1981, I believe, 1982, revised in 1982.
Oh, yeah. Excellent. Okay, moving along to the equipment standard.
The second standard we're looking at tonight is the equipment standard. The standard covers specialized equipment for our students with special needs, funded through the Ministry of Special Equipment Allocation, or SEAC, as we refer to it. The purpose of it is to provide the essential accommodations that allow students to access curriculum. So in this standard, we are looking at the funding sources and the allocation. We have changed to a formula component, and that formula component is outlined in last year's. It was a new change, so we've reflected that in our special education plan. It talks about the determination of need and documentation, and it talks about support and management and the equipment. So the equipment is essentially for at school, and there are exceptional circumstances where we may look at sending it home, but those are very exceptional. So for last year, we processed a total claim of over $4 million, and that was for 969 students. That was last year's data. We will update it again with the data from this year when we go to review and revise this section. But feedback is welcome, either now here at this meeting, or you can send it to me via an email. Happy to update it.
Any questions? Oh yes, go ahead, Sonia.
Quick question. Are AAC devices part of SEAC?
Sometimes,
AAC devices?
sometimes
Okay.
we are using some apps for some ACC devices.
Okay.
Yeah. It follows all of the rules for getting any of the equipment, the technology piece, so there's a list of requirements for getting that, but we do see some of those coming through.
Okay. Great.
Any further questions? Seeing none, all right. Is there any new business this evening? Go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, it was a bit continuation earlier at the beginning of the meeting, the conversation. So for the record, the Ministry's appointment of a supervisor at the Ottawa-Carleton District School Board does not suspend the board's legal duties under the Accessibility for Ontarians and with Disabilities Act 2005 and its regulations. By ending live stream SEAC meetings without providing an equally accessible alternative, the supervisor risks breaching Ontario Regulation 46.3/97, which guarantees public electronic access to open meetings, and Ontario Regulation 191/11, which requires accessible communication support such as captioned recordings or transcripts. Because the supervisor legally, parenthesis, stands in place of the board, parenthesis, under the Education Act, these obligations remain fully enforceable. The ministry therefore remains accountable for ensuring that open SEAC meetings are transparent, inclusive, and accessible to all members of the public, including those who are deaf, hard of hearing, or affected by health sensitivities that prevent in-person attendance. So overall, this is not meant to be adversarial. It's really that a lot of people, to my knowledge, I've been told this basically virtually or in person, that attend these sessions that are streamed or post-recorded, and it's important to them. They really value these streamed or post-recorded events of SEAC. Not to mention also because this is an accessibility issue, they attend other events like the PIC or maybe audit also. And so this is about inclusiveness. If the ministry, like we talk about bringing inclusivity in our education, but it's setting an example of inclusivity, I believe, and it's important at the end of the day.
Thank you, through your Madam Chair. Thank you, Anthony, for the piece. We'll make sure we bring that forward if there's any aspect of legislation that's not being followed or other, and continue to follow our ministry direction as staff, but make sure that we bring the concern forward. Thank you.
I think just this final one, we worked so many hard across across all the boards in Ontario. I believe every board has worked so hard to put in place these as a reflection of these regulations, and we're going backwards. And I think it was in reflection of these regulations that we put in place all the streaming and post recordings to be able to do this.
We'll bring it forward.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other new business? All right, seeing none. Please note that the next SEAC meeting will be held on Wednesday, November 5th. I now declare the meeting adjourned. Thanks for your attention.
Adjourned.